Hello, I'm Aga, and I'm super excited to be here. My topic is breaking the norm with creative CSS. And what does it mean? What does breaking the norm mean in terms of web design? And is CSS always creative? Well, hopefully you'll get answer to these questions during my talk. Before I start, I will quickly introduce myself and I will give you perspective why I'm so fascinated about CSS. I'm Aga Naplocha, and I'm super excited about stroopwafels. I hope that my pronunciation is good. My sister used to live in Eindhoven, and she always brought this with her. So whenever I'm in the Netherlands, I'm very happy. Actually, this is my second visit here, first time in Utrecht, so very happy. I'm coding designer at Adobe in Warsaw, in Poland, but I also have my own organization, non-profit organization, which is called The Awesomes. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. I love Instagram. So what we basically do is we try to encourage people to start learning how to code, encourage designers that code is a great tool. And we do this nonprofit for people who just like to start their path in technology. I recently also created Skillshare classes, mainly for designers who would like to animate SVG. So if you do know some designers, maybe you can share this link with them. And yes, FrontTrends, this is one of the conferences in Poland, and I had a pleasure to co-organize it together with Paweł and Brendan this year in Warsaw. It was in the last week, so it's so crazy time right now. And it was such a fun. So hopefully we'll see each other next year during Frontend United or maybe FrontTrends in Warsaw. Okay, so starting with the proper topic now, I have to share my personal story. So one day I got a task, just create a website. I'm a coding designer, I'm a front-end developer, so this should be something natural. But unfortunately, it wasn't. It occurred that creating a website, well, is a code blocker for me, and I had totally no inspiration at all, and I felt that this is very boring. So I was wondering, okay, so what should I do? Like, I lost my passion. Like, where is this now? I'm not fascinating about my work. So if you're a designer, you usually know that you need to look for the inspiration. So I just opened the site that I recently visited, the one with PayPal. It looks like this back then. And to be honest, it's not very inspiring, and I couldn't get this creative juices flowing. Another site was Trello, which I use a lot. And again, it's something like not very creative. Another page, Evernote. So altogether, they looked like this. And my friend wanted to be funny and sent me this link. And frankly speaking, it wasn't very funny because I was really depressed about the state of the web. And I was wondering, are we living in a 12 columns grid and 3 boxes? Is it only me, or maybe the whole World Wide Web has fallen into somewhat boring state? And very funny fact is that I stumbled upon also this article, which states that web design is indeed boring. So I was wondering, well, maybe I should change my job because it's no longer fun. And I think that we became the victims of the tools we're using, for instance, Twitter, the Bootstrap. So I decided to take a deep breath and just forget about the online world. And I know it's very hard for us, for developers and designers, because we use internet a lot. But I decided just to do the online detox. So I went offline, and fortunately, I found the solution out there. So the closest things that were at my hands right now, at the time, were the old-fashioned magazines I got from my friend. And it was it, because I found there are so many inspiring solutions in terms of the design. And it's very funny because people, they think that print is dead right now. It's like the dead medium. But I think that we can find there are so many cool things, like everything, the graphics, the layout, the artwork, everything is carefully assembled to support the content. And we don't like have many of this on the internet. We usually have like the same type of layout for the blocks. We've got the header, we've got the 2 columns or 3, and it's very dull. So when I was slowly getting back to the online world, I stumbled upon brutalist websites. Who has ever heard about them? Oh, some people, cool. Some people. So brutalist websites are like, for me, they're like web nonconformists. So these are people who design websites that are totally different than the others. They break all the existing rules. Sometimes it's very painful in terms of the user experience, but I think we need similar, like, we really need this type of design. So if you don't know them, just please check out brutalist websites. I think that it's a great source of inspiration. Another page that I would like to mention is Hover States. It also gathers very interesting web design. And it's totally different from Dribble, because in Dribble we've got like the same solutions, but like people change colors only. And here you've got like something unusual, which I really like. And if you think that you can't use like crazy design on your company's website, you should check Bloomberg, because it's a serious magazine and serious website, but they do have courage to do some crazy stuff. And I really enjoy this GIF out there. It reminds me of word art. I really like it. And you should also read this article, because it's great. And I have good news for Dutch people. When I was doing the research for my trip to Amsterdam, I really wanted to go to museums. And the first was MoCo. I visited websites and I fell in love with it. I think it's so cool. It's different than the other museums, because museums are usually boring and they're too afraid to take the plunge. And here it's something different. And the other page is Stedelijk. I don't know whether my pronunciation is now. Is it okay, Stedelijk? Stedelijk, do you know the museum? Stedelijk. Okay, thank you. I think it's so cool. I think there's an example for brutalist website, and the museum itself, it's amazing. So, by the way, there's a great exhibition out there called Coded Nature by Studio Drift. And if you're somewhere around, you should go there, totally. Okay, so now you're wondering where is CSS, because you're here to see the code, listen about the development, not about the art, not about the web design. So the good thing is that we're slowly heading to it. And I was doing the research, like what we can take from the print and what we can implement on the websites. And the good news is that we have some interesting CSS properties that we can start using in a more creative manner. So this was my CSS challenge, to see if I can avoid using Photoshop or other graphics editors in order to create something different on the web. So the first thing that I would like to mention is CSS Grid. And I don't know if you already dig deeper into it, but I strongly recommend. There are so many great resources. And with CSS Grid, you can build interesting websites. And if you don't know how to start, you can just take this example. It's not built in CSS Grid, but you can take it and start rebuilding this to find out about the possibilities. I would like to focus more on clipping. Clip path is the new properties. Before it was called clip, and now it's deprecated, so we're using clip path. So clip path is just a shape's boundary. How it works? Well, it's just like using the scissors and piece of paper. So whatever is inside the shape, so in this blue circle, is visible, and everything outside is hidden. So just like chopping pieces of content. So let's look into CSS code. We've got different ways of using it. We can use fixed shapes like rectangular, circle, polygon, so something more sophisticated. But we can also use URL function, this one. So let's look into the example. Yes, this is something that the demo I created. And let's see what's inside. So we have, does it work? Yeah. So we've got just like a container with the background. The background is attached, so we've got this nice effect of scrolling. And we applied a clip path with the URL function. So what's connected with the URL function? Well, it's SVG. So I created this splash of water in Adobe Illustrator. So it's a vector graphic. I copied it into my code editor, pasted it into HTML within SVG tags, and it's important to paste the code within defs, because def stands for definition, so it's not displayed somewhere on the website, but we can reuse it later or reference it in our CSS. So this is the only thing you need. And the good news is that this property is getting more and more popular, and it's getting more support from the browsers because, for instance, in Firefox, the URL function was the only thing that we could use, but now, fortunately, we could also use basic shapes like circle or inset or polygon. So what are the other purposes for clipping? Well, I think that maybe we could use it for cutout images. This is another demo. As you can see, we got the plants, and they are cutted out from the whole image. So I've got this image, applied the clip path, and now they are cutted out. So yeah, I need the shape that actually addresses the plants. So this is the thing that you or your designer you work with has to do. So this is the pain point, but it's very easy later on. So you can just apply this shape to the object or to the element. And you're wondering, okay, but why we're using this? Like maybe the designer can cut it out in Photoshop and we've got PNG file with transparency levels. Well, this is the answer. PNG weighs 6 times more than its equivalent in JPEG. I don't know whether it's the future for cutting out the images, but it's a nice alternative, and maybe we can use it for our projects. And if you feel that I'm too crazy, I would like to mention the article by Chris Coyer, and he also does this type of exercise, so hopefully we'll see it more often on the web. And about the browser support, it's not the best, but it's getting better. Unfortunately, IE and Edge and Opera don't support it. Fingers crossed for having it soon shipped. Okay, so let's listen about masking right now. So masking is just like having a mask that we apply to the image. And in this example, we also show and hide some elements, but it's different from clipping because we've got the transparency levels. So the mask is composited with our element, and we can define whether it should be, like how visible should it be. Like we can have an impact on the alpha channel, so transparency levels. And again, we can apply this with URL function. We can use gradients because gradients fades away. It has different transparency levels, so we can use it here. And let's look closer to the URL, again, URL function. It's important that Firefox and IE support only this way of applying mask. And we should also remember that we have to put the vendor prefixes to make it work. The thing that I really like about masking, and I think it can be very, have an influence on our creativity, is that we can use other properties, the same properties as for background, so we can decide whether the mask should be repeated or what should be the size of the mask, and it's important especially for changing the viewport. So let's look into the example. We've got the mask, the thing that with the blue thing, actually the splash, let's say, and you can see that it fades away. So it has transparency levels, it's just simple PNG file, and it's applied to the container with the GIF background. And it looks like glitter. I love glitter. But yeah, you can see that we have really nice effect. And actually, it's not, it doesn't weight a lot. And I think it can be very creative. So, yep. So about support, again, the same problem, i.e. Edge and Opera don't support it. So you're now wondering what's the difference. So just please remember that clipping are for vectors and masks are for images with different transparency levels. So if you have some mask and would like to have this nice effect of something fading away, or you don't have SVG file, you can just use masking. And if you really care about having crisp display, no matter the resolution, because this is what is ensured by vector files, just go with the clipping. Just please remember that masking is more memory and computation consuming because it goes pixel by pixel. So who said that text containers have to be rectangular? Let's just step out of the box, literally, and we should start using the more creative shapes. We can use it with shape outside. So shape outside, it acts on the floated elements, and it defines how the content will wrap around the different elements on the website. So if just shape outside property, we can add the circle, we can define it by percentages, we can go with polygon instead, but we can also use URL function, which gives us many opportunity. So here's the example. As you can see, the text just wraps around the Q letter. And we've got another splashes of gold paint, and the text is accustomed to the shape as well. So how it's done? Well, first, we have to apply float on the element, and we've got masking out there because the shape outside doesn't influence, it doesn't change the shape of the element. So if we want to have the shape matching the shape that we've got defined in shape outside, we have to either apply masking or clipping. So to make it work, we have to remember about some things. The object that we are applying shape outside to should be floated, so we should define it. Should have defined either height or width because it helps us to set the coordinate system. We can use background just as I used, and we can use mask image or clipping, and the last stage is shape outside. And if you do this like on your computer locally, you will see this message in console. And I was very frustrated because I didn't know what's happening after I checked console and see that there is CORS. So CORS is cross-origin resource sharing, and Shape Outside respects this. So if you want to play with it, just remember using your local host or another web server to load the images from the same domain as your page. And what about the browser support? Well, yeah, again, and it's even worse because Firefox don't support it. Hopefully it'll be better, fingers crossed. Okay, so the next thing that I think supports our creativity is SVG. I love SVG, I can't imagine my life without it. I love experimenting with it because I think that it's very easy, especially for designers, to start learning how to code because they can take some CSS properties and start animating SVG because like the code is quite intuitive, especially if you use the web dev tools. And I really like to use SVG also for other purposes. So for instance, we've got the text, put it on the curvy shape. And what I love about SVG is that accessible and it's searchable and it's selectable. So this is not an image. Usually when we some time ago, a couple of years ago, when we had like such a design, we usually just use the image because it was too complicated. And now we can use SVG, and it's so cool. So the code looks like this. We just can ask designer for the shape, take the code from Illustrator, or just for the SVG file, opening in the code editor, and we just have it, and we can edit the text, and it's so cool. As an example, I found this website, and they also use similar solutions. So I think that it's something that we can pay attention to. And I would like to also mention about chaos. So this is a very prolific web design trend this year. So failures, errors, jamming, everything is welcome here. There is a really nice project called Pretty Ugly Project, and I really like this name because these things are kind of pretty, kind of ugly at the same time. This is Polish girl. She has a really nice Instagram. So if you do like this type of design, you should follow her. And I was exploring this chaos style on the internet and found this amazing website for architects. And I really love this perspective, like changing the perspective of the text, that the text is skewed. And I really wanted to see how it's made, and stumble upon this code pen, and it's actually only CSS here. So you can do it, and I think that we need more such solutions on the web. So I think that together we can make the web more crazy and less boring. And I know that very often you work for serious clients and they're totally not interested in having brutalist websites, but maybe you can start using it for your own project, or maybe you'll be inspired by some pieces of it and you'll change the state of the web design. I strongly believe that creativity takes courage. This is what Henry Matisse said once. And if we'll be able to take the plunge, I think that the creativity will be on our side. And again, I would like to mention Stay the Leak. I think that hopefully it's the good caption. This name is so tough for me. I enjoyed this museum so much. I loved everything. I took I don't know, hundreds of photos. My phone was dying. You should go there because it's so inspiring place. I don't know whether you like art, but I think that it can give us so many ideas, and yeah, I love this place. So I hope that if you, maybe you had the same problem as I had, that you were stuck with your work, that you feel uninspired. So I hope that this task of creating a website, creating the layout, or maybe coding it, should be fun. So while doing these crazy ideas, implementing them, just please remember about caniuse.com, because at the same time, we have to have our websites accessible and with a good performance. So this is what Harry Roberts was talking about in the morning. And usually I do the contest with stickers and tattoos. Unfortunately, I have to run after my talk to the airport. I have my flight at 3, so I can't stay for longer. But I have more stickers of this. I'll be leaving them downstairs at the reception desk. So if you'd like to get them, feel free to come. And if you have any questions, just please write me on Twitter, because I won't be here. And I hope that we can bring the norm together. And dank u wel. I hope that it was okay. Thank you.
Thank you. As Aga said, she has to run, so if you have any questions, please Twitter?
Yes, Twitter.
Yes. Send her all the questions.
Just this one.
There you go. Okay. Give it up again for Aga before she has to run away.
Thank you.